Awesome. So we are really fortunate to have Nicole, Teal, Dee, and myself. We've all been overseas in some way, shape, or form, and we just want to share with you our experiences. So, Nicole, can I start with you? If you can share, just give a brief introduction and share what overseas locations you've been stationed at.
Sure. My name's Nicole. We are currently in Guam for the second time. The first time was not a choice, but I'm super grateful that they sent us here. And the second time was a choice. I'm a mom of four. I've been doing the military life now for almost 15, 16 years, and my husband's set to retire here in the next year. So it's really exciting and almost unbelievable. Um, yeah, that's me.
Awesome, thanks. Teal?
Hi there, I'm Teal. I am a Navy spouse of almost 11 years, and we are currently stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. But prior to that, OCONUS, we were stationed in Etsugi, Japan, when I was a brand new military spouse, and then also Hawaii immediately following that, if you count that as OCONUS. And then most recently, we were stationed in Rhoda, Spain. I've got three boys that are 6 and under, and they are, it's chaos, but you know what? We're making it happen.
Awesome, thank you. Dee?
Hi, I'm Dee. I have been married to my sailor almost 20 years. Actually, I lied. I think this year is going to be 19, but it seems like forever sometimes. We just recently moved from Hawaii to Virginia, to Yorktown, Virginia. We were stationed in Hawaii twice, so we went from 2007 to 2017, and then we went back from 2022 to 2025. I don't think he's going to retire anytime soon because he doesn't know what he wants to do when he grows up. So, and we have one boy. He's a teenager, so we're in the thick of the teenage years. But Navy life is good.
Awesome, thanks.
Awesome.
I'm Jenna Lang. I have been married 25 years, and I was also actually prior service. So I was in the Navy for 3 years when I married my husband. We have been stationed overseas once in Yokosuka, Japan. I have three children, one is graduating from college actually in 3 weeks, so pretty excited about that one. One in college and one in high school. So with that, we're going to go to our next question and we'll start back, kind of do around the horn again, back with Nicole. What was something you were worried about before the move and how did you handle it?
I got to be honest with you, when my husband told me that we were going to Guam 2 days before my birthday, he thought I was going to be devastated, but I was actually cheering for joy. We had been in Bremerton for two tours, and I'm a tropical girl, so I was really excited. Um, I just thought the opportunity to leave the continental US was just super awesome. We had never been somewhere so far away from the States. And I actually never even knew what Guam was before moving to Washington. And I actually think a lot of people are like, "Well, Guam," especially with the most recent typhoon that passed through in the northern Marianas Islands. A lot of people, I think, are like, wait, what? That's part of, the US. That's crazy. So I really, honestly, I wasn't scared. I think everyone has the unknown of what to expect, but I just knew that it we were going to make it work regardless. I think getting here, realizing that things are not as the conveniences is probably the biggest thing that many don't have out here, because it is island life. It is half a day. Uh, we are on island time, um, so I guess if anything, it was just maybe what most would be fear of the unknown and the distance by the U.S. But I really took it on full throttle. And I was like, let's do this thing.
I love it. I love that attitude. Thanks, Nicole. Teal?
So I am a terrible driver. And I had a lot of trepidation moving to Japan about driving on the other side of the car, on the other side of the road, and how I would navigate that. And then those fears kind of came back around in Spain because, you're in Europe and these cities are very, very old and the roads are tiny and so driving was a big challenge for me, and I had to um, kind of force myself to do it, to get off base and go drive off base, because otherwise I would have been missing out on so much. And so in Japan, I took on teaching English classes that I couldn't take the train to, that I needed to drive to, just to kind of help get me out of that comfort zone. And same kind of thing in Spain, my children went to school off base, and so out in town, and so I had to just, you know, take that challenge head on, and then both locations. By the time I was finally like, oh, I've got this. I'm so good driving on the other side of the road. I'm so good driving down these tiny roads. Then it was time to move. And but that was a big fear for me. And it sounds silly, but it's something that you have to do every single day. And it was concerning to me, but you figure it out.
Thanks. I did not like the Japan driving when you could like see a cliff on one side and a brick wall on the other side. It's a little nerve-wracking. Dee?
I think for me, moving to Hawaii, the first time we didn't have our son, and I was so new to the Navy that I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know what to be scared of. So I just went with the flow. The second time around, though, I knew that if we had any pets, we needed to make sure that to get all that paperwork done ahead of time. And then regarding housing, like I think Hawaii is the only place where you can't get on the housing list unless you're physically there. Whereas other duty stations, you could apply ahead of time. So that for me was a little stressful because I know like in Hawaii, housing is really hard unless in the wait list for base housing or even any type of housing is long. So I think that was my uh, concern the second time around.
Thanks. I too was worried about the dog. We got a COVID puppy right before I think the Navy gods heard me that I got a COVID puppy because that's right after that was when I got orders to Japan. But as Dee said, if you really plan ahead and nowadays, like especially like Japan with the quarantine, you get the rabies shot 6 months in advance, and then they don't actually quarantine over there. And if you're not able to do it 6 months, the quarantine can oftentimes be in the home on base. They have, it's not as scary and stressful as I think it had been in the past, especially. And there's a Facebook group specifically dedicated to military PCS with pets, which is amazing. And then actually after we left Japan is when the new allotment came out that you can actually get assistance that helps with cover some of the costs of PCSing with a pet. And so I think for me that was a big because she was a young dog, and so I was really nervous about that. But I kind of just went through all the checklists that were available to me, and we made it work. And it was, most stressful putting her in the crate to send her over, but she did great. She came off the plane and I flew after my husband because I took my oldest to college. And he went over with our younger two. He said that when he was in the airport trying to get her from customs, he saw a forklift go by with her crate on the forklift. He's like, that's my dog. So she made it. So it all worked out. So we were really, really fortunate. Nicole, what has been your favorite part of living overseas?
Uh, I want to piggyback on the pet thing that you mentioned and the house thing because those are two of the biggest concerns and questions. And if anybody is watching this live with us and on the recording, yes, the same for Guam housing as well. You cannot get on the housing list until your sailor is physically here with his stamped orders. And now in Guam, they actually make at least the sailor or the active duty member, because now we have Marines out here, Army out here, Coast Guard out here, Navy. You have to go to a housing brief. They call it AOB, and I apologize, I do not know the accurate, the correct name of that briefing, but they go over everything, and that is actually how you get on the housing list. They have a heat sheet. I'm not sure exactly what that purpose serves, because when you get there, you still have to do everything again. Maybe it might make you feel good in the meantime. But I feel like that is probably a very stressful point, as well as the pet stuff and starting that 180 days out. And the one extra thing about Guam is that the only way you can get your pet on island is through a pet shipper. If your dog is over 100 pounds with the kennel and or using United, and it has to go, you can't book it straight through the United website or with somebody who is specific with United. Like if you were calling and getting tickets and things like that, you actually have to call United Pet Safe and get a specific flight from where you're coming from. So it's not as open as maybe say Japan, Korea, and Hawaii that have a couple other options that will fly into the island, or the rotator, the Patriot Express. So I know that is a huge stressor for families coming over with animals. Okay, so I just wanted to piggyback on that because I feel that is super tough. But Military One Source, when we first came out here, 2020, was an incredible timeline when we put it in and said where we were coming from and where we were going. We we were set as being our first big move, and still relatively younger into our military career. So that is I feel an underutilized source, because the minute we got orders, we were like in the fleet and family office. We were like, give us the list. What do we need to do? What are our checklists? And made sure, because we were selling a house and we did have to, leave our dogs back stateside and things like that. So just being really prepared as early on as possible is the best way you can make the move. Okay. So my favorite part about living overseas, especially with Guam's interesting because it's a territory. It has such rich culture, and we're so far away from the States and so close to Japan and Korea and things like that. We finally got to go visit Japan this past earlier in the year in February, and that was such a cool opportunity. So I know a lot of families and just individuals that come out here take big advantage of going to different countries in Asia, and then just getting submerged in the Chamorro culture here is just so different than what you're finding in the States. The scuba diving and snorkeling is just unbelievable. I don't think that there's a place in the world, in my opinion, that you could have such remarkable, just let's go snorkel off the beaches on base and go swim with, a handful of sea turtles. And I think my other favorite part about here is I only have to have one wardrobe for my children, just one. Because when we went back to the States in between our two tours, split, we went to Connecticut, and my kids did not understand that the seasons change and we need to wear shoes and pants. My son would go outside in shorts and boots, and he would call his pants short pants. I was like, no, they're pants. So that's some of my favorite things here: the culture, the weather. It's always beautiful and sunny, and just the outdoor activities we get to do as a family. And this place, I feel, is set back in the 90s. So I'm not scared for my kids to go outside of the front door and answer the door. And kids are outside riding bikes and rollerblading and playing in the neighborhood. The advantage of living on base is it's been beautiful. We really love it. And that's the main reason why we decided to come back for our Twilight tour, is to kids to grow up doing the things that we did as kids. And our parents are like, go ride your bike, go outside. I'll see you in colors, and not have to worry about the potentials of things that maybe others have to worry about in the States.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Teal?
All right, so I'm going to give two things here that are my favorites about being stationed at OCONUS. Number one, Japan and Spain are very different places. And our family loves to travel. We love to travel, but there is something about living in a place and fully immersing yourself in that culture that is not the same as spending a week somewhere. And so when you get to experience a culture and, go to their schools and be in the mom chat groups with the moms who are from that country, or, have your favorite local baker, not just a bakery that you read a New York Times review, and wanted to go to one time on this trip. That is something really, really special. And it's something that I'm so glad that we've been able to give to our kids, for them to have their favorite churro stand that we, went to every single Sunday. Um, and then the other part of it, and I know that people who are stationed in San Diego and Jacksonville and Norfolk and, Bremerton, I know that people make fantastic relationships with their military communities. But there is something truly special about the family that you create overseas when you are so, so far away from, your family and your other friends. Um, and that is just something that I had never experienced before. When we were stationed in Japan, I found out that I was pregnant for the first time in my life while my husband was deployed. And a few weeks later, I found out that I had lost that baby. And it was the people, it was the family that I created in Japan that held my hand at the doctor's office because my husband was on a ship. And made sure that I didn't eat a single meal alone for a week, and they become your family when your family can't be there. And that's something that I think is so special about being at OCONUS.
Thank you for sharing that story, Teal. And it is true. The community that is created there is unlike anything I've experienced. Um, Dee, can you share your favorite experience?
I think being in Hawaii, I love the beaches, the food, and the culture. You definitely learn the aloha spirit. No honking of the horns or anything like that, and the shaka. And like Teal said, so I come from a like submarine community. So and since we're so far from family, we all bonded and we got to know each other and we became like each other's support. And I think that's very crucial when you're living overseas, to have that support because it can be very isolating if you don't have that. So, but yeah, and the scuba diving, I've been to Guam too, and they're both pretty good. But yeah, the beaches and the hiking and the perpetual summer, it's really nice in Hawaii. I'd go back again.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think for me, my favorite part of living overseas was the fact it really got me out of my comfort zone. I am not a person that loves change, and this was a big change. We had never lived. We didn't move Oconus until my husband had been in well over 20 years, and so and we were leaving a college daughter behind, and I was very trepidatious about the whole thing, and then loved every minute of it. So the classic, I went to Japan kicking and screaming, and I left kicking and screaming was 100% my experience. My daughter will still tell you that she would fly to Japan tomorrow to get golden miso ramen, which is a ramen from a little ramen shop right off Face in Yokosuka, because it's you and we've tried since being back, and we can't replicate it. But really, it's that it did stretch my comfort zone, but then I wouldn't change the experience for anything in the world. I'm really grateful for it. So, um, our last question, and then I want to make sure that you guys are able to ask any questions you want in the chat. And we'll again go around the horn. Nicole, what advice would you give someone interested in living overseas?
I think I jumped the gun when I talked about the military one. Okay. Um, I think just there's so many resources available as far as, jumping on the local spouses page, just asking the questions and using the search bar in those pages is really helpful too. Um, if you have a question, there's chances that someone else has the same question and probably has asked in a different way or the same way. And there's a lot of great feedback. Do keep in mind you're going to get, when you ask for opinions, you're going to get both ends of the coin. So take everything with a grain of salt and just use your best judgment when it comes to the advice that you're looking for. And I think really what you had mentioned, every overseas duty station and every duty station, really, wherever you go, is really what you make of it. You are so on the mark when you talked about finding your family here. I have made some of the best friends here, and it's really fun to go meet them back in the States. So utilizing Fleet and Family, utilizing the ombudsman teams, utilizing the free military resources online. I think the other one is it Map My Move or Move? Do you know which one I'm talking about? The other resource online.
I
Okay, I'm going to
did,
look it up.
I know, and
Go
I
ahead.
did Google AOB is Area Orientation Brief. So I did check that one out. I'll
Thanks
have to
so
look.
much.
Yeah. I'll Google Map My Move so we can answer that
I
one at
think
the end.
it's Map My Move, and it's just a really great, and it gives you step by step, month by month, how far out things need to be as far as, what to schedule, how to schedule, what allotments you're allowed for moving, especially because you're moving a vehicle. There is, for instance, we had three different types of plan my move. Yep. Okay. There it is. There's non-temp long-term storage where we got to leave all of our cold stuff, back in the States. So if we didn't want to bring all of our winter belongings that I'm not going to use on this island ever. There's moving the car, which hopefully they pass the two-car move. Right now they just pay for one, but hopefully in the future, maybe by the next year, we can move two cars or two vehicles. And then just knowing you have an express shipment along with your home goods. I think it's also really important to note that a lot of overseas areas have temporary housing, furniture, and utensils and things like that, where if you don't maybe send your stuff out right away, knowing that you can have beds and kitchen tables and couches and bedside tables and things like that. So your house isn't going to be empty while you wait for your home goods if you are able to get into a house a little sooner than anticipated. So yeah, and it's scary if you're only been close to family for so long to want to move, or if your spouse or the active duty member has the opportunity. But my goodness, if you have the opportunity to go overseas, I'm so jealous listening to you all talk about Japan. It's beautiful, and Spain. Oh my gosh, I wish. I'm just going to take the good luck and the privilege of being out here in Guam. But you're right. It's just the family and the friends that you create and the experiences and just really stepping outside of your comfort zone and meeting those people. And if you have children, showing them what that courage looks like to get out and go meet new people and really being a leader when it comes to embracing this life that we maybe didn't choose. We chose our service member. And the fun details that come along with loving our service members. So
Thanks. Those are all great things. And I put in for those of you that maybe didn't see in the chat is the Plan My Move link. And that's a really good resource, Nicole. Thank you for sharing. Teal, what advice would you give?
Number one, if you're thinking about it, go. Just go. Just do it. We have done three OCONUS duty stations and we are trying to figure out. I feel like every night when my husband comes home from work, we're trying to figure out how we can go OCONUS again. It is Feria season in Spain right now, which is, kind of the spring festival. And so I'm seeing photos of all of my friends wearing these beautiful Spanish Feria dances and dresses and doing the dances. And I'm just aching and wishing that I was there right now. So number one, just go. Number two, know that it might take 6 months for you to feel like you've got your groove. Between all of the logistics, between all of the paperwork, between getting driver's licenses from the EU or from Japan, or, it might take 6 months for you to feel settled and feel like found your people, and that's okay. And if it takes a little more than that, okay. If it takes less than that, great. But like, just know that it doesn't happen overnight, and it can take time. Also, the third thing I think that is really, really important when it comes to an OCONUS duty station is expectation management. When it comes to the kind of tour that your spouse is on, is this an operational sea tour, or is this a shore tour where they're on a staff, and the expectations might be a little bit differently. It's hard to compare if you have a friend who's stationed in Germany, and their spouse is on a staff tour or a shore tour, and they are visiting a different country in Europe every single weekend, but your spouse is on a sea tour where they're deploying and the op tempo is very high. You can't compare the apples to oranges. And so go into it knowing what you're getting into. And so that you're not disappointed. You're not saying, oh, well, my friend got to, go to all these countries while they were stationed overseas, or they got to do this and that. And, they got to go to the beach all the time with their service member. If your service member is on, an operational high up tempo kind of tour, that might not be what it looks like for you. That doesn't mean that it still can't be a phenomenal experience, but just go into it knowing where you're at.
I really like that. That's good. It is true, the difference. In Japan, it's forward deployed, and you were there. Like the op tempo can be very high, and so you have to be comfortable. It may be you and a group of spouses taking kids places, or you and a group of spouses without. You have to be kind of, as they say, bloom where we are planted. So, uh, Dee, what advice would you give to someone thinking about going
Um,
overseas?
Pretty much Teal and Nicole like hit it right on the head. Like just do it. Like I know it's going to be scary, but the pros and the positives that you get out of it is, I think, is definitely worth it. And what Teal said about the expectations, like this last tour, my husband was never home, and the tours before that, when we were in Hawaii, he was always home. So it's a lot different. So the expectations, you definitely have to be honest with yourself, and not get upset that that your sailor's not going to be there, and just do it. It's fun. It's worth it.
Definitely. So two pieces of advice I would give is one, is to really be honest on all the medical forms. I think it can be difficult for families, because they may say, oh, I won't make it out to be that bad, but then when they get over there, either the issue can be compounded, which means they may have to go back early, or you're struggling as a family because you're not able to get all the care that you actually really need. And it is important. It's one thing I learned, is that the overscreens medical process isn't to weed you out or to punish anyone, but it's really to ensure that your family is set up for success overseas, because hospitals and clinics and all that is different. For instance, in Japan, they don't have a huge culture of mental health counselors, and the base has very limited mental health resources. And so that was a challenge for a lot of families, because there wasn't an option. We're used to stateside, maybe if you can't be seen on base, that you can get a referral out in town. But there are places like Japan, nuances with their medical care, some of those things just become really difficult. So being honest in the overseas screening is really important. And then the other advice I would give is, to not let life pass you by. So when I went over, I had one child in high school and one child in middle school. And so we quickly got, my high schooler played football for the high schooler, and my middle schooler was in the school play, which was all amazing. But then all of a sudden it got to the holiday time, and we really hadn't taken advantage of Japan. So fortunately, over holiday break, we went down to Kyoto in Japan, and we went into Tokyo. But I do wish we had kind of recognized what a finite period of time we were going to get in Japan. I felt like we had all the time in the world, and then it went by so quickly. And especially if you're going over with older kids, it's easy to get so busy with their activities, which are great, and you want them to be involved in the schools. And so many of the Dodea schools overseas have so much to offer school-age children. But it's easy to forget that you want to take advantage of just being overseas, because as Teal said, that's really, it's so different to get to be overseas and visit versus vacation overseas. Um, so I definitely, and Lindsay, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go around just to kind of let you know, Lindsay, in case you have any specific questions. Nicole is currently in Guam and really amazing and joining us from Guam in the morning. Teal has been stationed in Japan, Spain, and Hawaii. Dee has been stationed in Hawaii, and I've been stationed in Japan. So we welcome any of your questions. We really want to give you the opportunity to ask any, and don't feel like you have to ask them. You're welcome just to even put them in chat. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to come off mute if they don't want to. Awesome. Well, any last parting words, everyone, before we close for the evening?
Just do it.
I
Go
love it.
overseas. You won't
I'm
regret,
really
you won't regret it.
Oh, no
I'm really
problem.
glad you touched on medical and the overseas screening process, and especially for Guam. We are so limited medical wise out here. I see that's like the biggest question asked, and someone will say, oh, I have any specialty care that is needs to be seen routinely. Many people will say, don't come, even if they pass you, because I don't know if you've experienced this, but um, every overseas screening process is not universal. It's all different depending on the different medical facility that you go to. So I'm so glad you touched on that. It was such an important point. So I'm going to let Lindsay go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, awesome. Sorry for joining late. Thank you guys for this opportunity. Um, I'm really excited to be here. I probably won't be able to stay the whole time, but excited to see the recording for what I missed. But I'm a new military spouse. I've been married to my husband 2 years, and he's about to pin O3, so we're still pretty new to the Navy life. So can you, when you guys go into a little more detail about the overseas medical screening, is that something that I've not heard of that before, and we could be getting orders to Japan as soon as the summer. So is that something that we need to initiate? Or I also have a son and I'm pregnant with my second. So what do I need to do for the kids? All that fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Teal, I'll let you take it if you'd like.
I can. Yeah, absolutely. So that should be something that if you do get orders, that process will start moving along the way. And, your whole family, including the service member, will, go to appointments and you'll have a checklist of everything that you need to do, all the appointments that you need to have, any vaccinations that you need to have prior to going to overseas. I think we had to have Japanese encephalitis, and a few other things prior to moving there. But everything should be pretty clear and set up for you. And depending on what you're set up with in terms of TRICARE, whether you're TRICARE Prime or TRICARE Select, both military installation hospitals can fill out all of the paperwork that you need. Or, if you're in San Diego or Norfolk or any of the places that we are, there are there are medical facilities that see this paperwork very frequently, because our community is there. So it shouldn't be problematic. I don't know, Jenna, if you have anything to add to that, but it's really not something you start until those orders pop.
Yeah, and your spouse's like current command kind of will help kind of initiate the paperwork. Like all good forms, there's a section you'll fill out before you go to the medical appointment. And again, it's just being really honest, and it's kind of, all the things you can think of like medication, surgery, any kind of reoccurring appointments, as Nicole mentioned, that you may have. But they really walk you through it. And again, I really stress it's not something to be afraid of. It's really something set up to ensure that your family is able to live successfully overseas.
And I'm not sure where you're at in your pregnancy, and you don't need to let us know, but they are set up in Japan and everywhere. Had the majority of my first full-term pregnancy was in Japan, and a lot of the physicians that I saw were Japanese, but it wasn't problematic. My third child was born in Spain. And that was even a little bit different because it was not in Spain. It's not actually U.S. military installation, so that process works a little bit differently when it comes to getting their birth certificate and those sort of things. But it's all things that have been done dozens and dozens and dozens of times before, and everyone is able to work through that.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, my husband is in aviation and things can sometimes move pretty quickly. So
My husband's a Navy helicopter pilot, so right there with you.
just in case he goes to before if once we get the orders, as long as there's nothing I need to do beforehand, we just wait and receive them, then
Yeah.
that's comforting.
So in my experience, that was not the case. And I actually had to stay on top of it for everything, especially when we came to Guam both times. So I did the majority of our family's overseas moving or screening. I actually reached out to the medical facility in our local area. So we're in Groton at one point, and then the other point we were in Bremerton. So for those that had the blessing of having everything very easily and given to you, I love that for you. I was not the same. So if you are a planner and you want to kind of know and have your ducks in a row with a big move like that, with being pregnant and having your little kiddo, you can call the medical facility or the clinic, whatever's closest to you, the Naval Hospital, and you can actually get those forms ahead of time. So that way there, you know exactly what to expect, doctor's visits, things like that. At the time, we were not being seen at the clinic. So then I needed to gather documents from the clinic out in town where my kiddos were being seen. Same thing with me. I was not being seen off base as well, or I was not seen on base. I was being seen off base. So I had time to gather those documents. The same thing with dental. We're not seen at the dental clinic on base. We're seen out in town. So I had to make sure I got, up to date with our cleanings and x-rays and those things that their expectations were to attach with the overseas medical screening. However, you can get all of that paperwork ready to go and the documents ready. So then when you do have orders, you can go ahead and start the medical overseas screening process. They can't officially go through your paperwork until those orders are in your hands. But for us, knowing that things can fall through the cracks, and I wanted to know for sure that we were going as a family, everything was approved in a timely manner, and that stress was just completely taken care of. I wanted it put in right away. So if paperwork was missing or something fell through on the overseas screening process, or they forgot to push something through, I wanted to make sure that we had everything taken care of on our checklist right away. So that is something you can do, and you can ask for that paperwork right away. And I made sure that I made calls. I was checking up on things. I was getting status updates. And I had a very good relationship with the overseas screening office at my local facility there in Groton at the clinic. So that isn't also an option for you if that is your personality.
Yeah, we are up in Norfolk, and we are select, but and have good relationships with all of our providers out in town. But if that's just a call to, I don't know, the hospital on base here to get those forms, and then I can start doing. I am a planner, very type A, so that was really great advice. But call the hospital first on base, the Naval Hospital, to start that. Okay.
Yep, you should be able to call the quarter deck and just ask for the overseas screening office, and they
Okay.
should be able to get you right to their direct number and things like that. And especially with an area that is so big that sees so many people, I think it's a great idea to have all of that paperwork ready to go so you know what to expect, and
Mhm.
you have everything on hand, copies. I've just seen spouses get burned. I've seen things fall through, and if that is a huge piece of advice, if I can give, it's just be on top of it, be ready for what's to come, and just have everything like, nope, I have this for you, I have this for you, I have this for you, and just know that you're helping make the process much easier and able to get you and your family there as planned.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Katie asked a question. We have orders to Naples, Italy, and are leaving in the fall. My sailor will be on deployment pretty much until our move date. Any specific advice? It's our first OCONUS move, and we will have an 8-month-old. Sorry, the college daughter's cell phone can break through. Any specific advice? It's our first OCONUS move, and we'll have an 8-month-old at the time of the move. So I'll start. So one, make sure, and I'm sure like with him going on deployment, but power of attorney is really critical because you're going to have to set up, and I think a couple people alluded to it, the you have three different moves. You have like a storage move, you have your overseas main move, and then you have an express shipment. And so you're going to need a power of attorney to make sure that you can get all of those things um, taken care of. If your spouse has his orders prior to leaving on deployment, one thing I would definitely recommend is passports. Um, when you have a child and you need to get a passport with a child, both parents have to actually be present to get the passport. You can get it with a power of attorney, but I think all of us on this call would probably agree it's probably just easier if you can both go in person. And so trying to get things like the passports, because you'll actually get a no-fee passport for the overseas like official travel, and then you'll want to get a tourist passport so that you can take advantage of living in amazing Naples and going to visit other countries. So those would be and I'll kind of let others chime in, but making sure you have all the power of attorneys you need specifically for the moves, and then also try and take care of those passports while he's around so that you can make sure it just makes the process a little easier. Anyone?
So I just wanted to share a resource and I put it there in the chat. And Katie, this would be great for you. It would be great for anyone, really. There is a pilot program right now which reimburses the cost of flying family members in to where you are so that they're able to watch kids during a PCS. So while you're packing out and maybe you're packing out by yourself because your spouse is deployed, there is a pilot program that will actually help to cover the cost of flying in a family member or a friend to help just kind of watch the kids so that you can tackle that move, which I think is a really fantastic resource. So might be something to keep in mind. And Katie, I just also wanted to say, since it looks like you're going to Italy, when you're stationed in Europe, when you're coming home, you're authorized a wine shipment. And the Navy will pay to ship wine back from Europe to wherever you're going. So just another little perk to living OCONUS if that's your thing. If it's not your thing, that's totally fine too. But just wanted to throw that out there.
I love it. I love it. Dee or Nicole, anything else to add on the getting prepped overseas? I'll be honest, Katie, we were in the same boat. In fact, my husband came off deployment to an Airbnb because we had actually fully moved out of our house. Came home, we were all in the Airbnb together for a week, and then we left to go back over to go overseas. So it is at times not fun because he does not remember what it was like to do all the moves and the pack outs and all the things, but we did it, we survived, and we're still married, and so it's all good and it's totally doable. Um, but take advantage of um, the program Teal mentioned, and take advantage of the community you have around you, and all of that. And yes, if you don't want to, so long-term storage is absolutely covered. You'll be authorized to long-term storage. I will tell you that what some people do, if you have the ability, is things that you absolutely couldn't replace. If you have a family member that you're able, like, so for instance, we left in my parents' basement like baby photo albums and I have these plates that I have of my kids with their handprints on them. Things that you like in no uncertain terms could replace. If you have it, not everyone has this, but if you have like a family that you can send a box to, or have those things that like you just would be devastated if something happened to, you can take advantage of that. But you are absolutely authorized long-term storage, and definitely take advantage of it because off that is the one thing about living overseas is the houses are smaller than you may be accustomed to stateside. And you don't need a big house because you're going to want to be visiting all these great places and seeing everything. So take just the furniture that you need. Did that answer your question, Lindsay?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. And Katie, I know you have a little one with you, but you can just give a little thumbs up. Oh, yep, you love wine. Perfect. Great. Awesome. Are there any other questions before we close tonight?
I do have another one, but I don't want to take all the time if anyone else has
No,
questions.
absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Speaking of little ones, any advice for flying with one, maybe two, with that long flight over the pond?
So I moved to Spain with a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And then I moved home from Spain with a not even 1-year-old. So we did a lot of big flights. And it's one of those things where you take off and you land and you're gonna land. And it might go really, really well. Um, it might be really, really hard, but at the end of the day, you're going to finish. My kids love these things. You can get them on Amazon. We call it the snack game. I don't know. I can't remember how old you said your older your child is, but so kids that are basically like above 2. So we used these all over Europe. We use them on every flight. They make these things on Amazon and they're these little squares that pop open, and you can put, a couple of Cheerios or a single fruit snack and you make them match. And so they have to actually get a match. And so it's a game, but it's also a snack. And so it takes longer than if you were just to hand them a pack of fruit snacks. And they think it's the best thing in the world. I'm going to find the link and I'm going to put it in the chat. But I bought it on Amazon. I saw it from an Air Force spouse who I was friends with, and she was flying with 3 small children. And I was like, "What is that? What are you doing?" She was like, "Oh, this is the best thing in the whole wide world." And so now we do the snack game, and I can't tell you how many military spouse friends I've gifted these snack games to over the years. So anyway, that might seem like a very silly response, but it is my reality, and it's worked.
It sounds intriguing to me. So even if it doesn't keep him entertained, it would keep me entertained.
Sure.
Entertained. So um,
Awesome.
that's
Nicole,
awesome.
do you have any, because I know you've traveled with small children too.
We have to and from Guam twice. And my kids are both the same um, ages apart because I have 2 older kids in middle school and then my younger kids. It seems like I just hit repeat. And I've also done it pregnant both times, leaving Guam and coming back to Guam. So It's very similar to what Teal said. You're gonna take off and you're gonna land. I feel like it usually goes thinking about it is the worst. And just as all moms do, it's just we just pull up our bootstraps and we're just like, we're just gonna do this thing. Trinkets. I will have a lot of extra tablet time during those moments if they want to sit for like an extra 5 minutes. That's an extra 5 minute win. Lots of snacks. They make really cool things on Amazon as well. She was mentioning like a almost like as an extended bed where you put on the tray where they can kind of lay their feet out. I've done the blow up situation. Probably not ideal because then you have to bring a blower and it's kind of loud and people around you definitely give me looks. But we were desperate to try anything, so here we were blowing this little footstool bed thing up for our kids. So there's lots of little trinkets, but I think mouths that are busy is usually the best. And then if you've got to walk up and down the aisle a little bit, that's to be expected, but it's what they do. And then eventually, hopefully they pass out. It's always lovely.
Also, for
Um,
getting through the airports, depending on how old your kids are, we have the Stokey Jet Kids, and they're like these little carry-on bags that they can put all of their little things in and their snacks and everything, but then they can actually ride them through the airport. So if you've got tight
the
connections, or
scooters.
if they're just, not interested in walking all of that way, they're not necessarily cheap, but we've passed them down along the way, and it makes, I mean, they fly through the airport in those things.
That's awesome.
And also don't be afraid, like if there is crying, and it may be you, if that's all okay. Like everything is, you know, um, I think Teal's point, you take off and you land is critical. So
Don't forget to pack an extra shirt and maybe pair of leggings for yourself, I
mhm.
would say, because, a lot of times as moms, we, of course, remember to bring extra clothes for all of the kids in case there's a blowout or in case someone gets airsick or whatever. But you forget that you might be holding that child, and so having that extra outfit for yourself as well is really helpful. And I've flown alone, um, long flights without my spouse, and I know people do it all the time. I have certainly, when I needed to go use the restroom or I just needed a break, I have given my 4-month-old child to a flight attendant to hold. I have given my young child to a fellow passenger to hold. And I feel like for the most part, people know that you're trying and people are there, to help. And so, and if you have someone who's a little bit, you know, not having their best day, that's fine. But I think most people realize that, we're trying, and people are there to lend a helping hand.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree.
That's awesome.
I was going to comment on Katie. She was asking about how her husband was leaving and just any specific advice. I think the biggest thing I would recommend is before your spouse does leave, make a timeline. If you are going to be the one that is leading the charge with the move and things like that, set up an appointment with Fleet and Family to get the resources you need or the different resources that they have online through Military One source, plan my move, things like that. So then that way there you have a timeline in which you're going to ship your household goods out. I'm going to assume Naples also has loaner furniture. So that might be something you can consider. So maybe you don't send all your home goods out right away. So that way there, if you get into a home or wherever you are, if you get in quickly, you can get the loaner furniture and not stress about getting the rest of your things. Knowing that you might have to live out of a suitcase for 3, 4, 5 months. Hopefully that's not the case. Maybe it's shorter. Just planning for that as well. And then with the express shipment, um, putting things in there. So if you shipped everything out and you still have things left in your express shipment, so things like I always keep a set for the kitchen. So pots, a couple pots and pans, baking sheets, utensils, different kitchen appliances. So like air fryers or Instapots, coffee pots, some cleaning things, whether it be a vacuum or a mop or whatever that might look like. So I would just sit down and start mapping those things out together and kind of what are the important things that would make this move easier for you as well as for him, and things that maybe you're not going to bring with you to Italy as well, that would stay behind. So I think having a plan in place, a checklist, however that would work best for you and your spouse, and then that way there you can start tackling those things as you move forward without him. And then getting on that local spouse page and kind of getting the feel for the area. A lot of people may have asked these questions and see what people are saying. How long is it taking for their stuff to get there? How long is the housing list? Are you living on base? Are you living off base? Usually, I have found that anything OCONUS, the the command that you're going to is usually really helpful. The ombudsman's really helpful. The FRG can be really helpful, especially because this is it. This is all we have over here. So they will really give you more tools and resource things which is expect and specific to that duty station in that area. So I would utilize all resources as possible that would make you feel best and the least stress possible about the unknown when moving. So hopefully that helps a little bit doing it on your own. And I'm sending you all of the positive vibes.
Nicole, when you were saying the checklist, I live by checklists. Is that something that like the Fleet and Family resources or the Military One Source would have one built out already, or is that something that's kind of live and learn, talk to other spouses, and like I didn't even think about packing the vacuum. Like those are
Yeah,
yeah, so
I
stuff like that.
just
A little bit of both.
I think, yeah, I just put it in the chat, Lindsay. I think it got put in the chat probably, and sometimes when you join later, you can't see the earlier chats. So it's plan my move, and I put it in there, and and you put like where you're currently stationed, where you're moving to, and then it helps you build a checklist. But I also just can't stress enough, using Fleet and Family. Fleet and Family has like an overseas class in most locations. So we were in San Diego when we went to go abroad to Japan, and I went to like an moving overseas class that Fleet and Family did. Um, and it was really helpful. And again, they went over checklists, they went over things that you don't even think about as far as like weight restrictions. Like in Japan, you can't take cars at all. Things, just different things like that. So being able to take advantage of anything that Fleet and Family may have to offer, or this checklist through Military One Source is really helpful as well.
Perfect.
And then Teal's, I think, putting in another
Sorry.
good.
Yeah, sorry. Additionally, most duty stations, usually the public affairs office at most duty stations puts together a welcome aboard packet that
Yes.
is updated each and every year. And that welcome aboard packet tells you everything that you need to know about housing, about it has checklists. I just put, for example, the Yokosuka one in the chat here. But most duty stations, the public affairs office is in charge of putting together these welcome aboard package, which are a wealth of information. And then, as Nicole mentioned, going to the AOB, the Area Orientation Brief. Typically, when you are both in Japan and in Rota, Spain, we went through something called AOB ICR, which is Area Orientation Brief. It's a class, it's a week-long class. So the first half of the class, you are learning all about the installation. You're learning about the base, where the gym is, what time the gates are open, those sorts of things. And then the second half of the class is ICR, which is, I think it stands for Intercultural Relations. And so you learn a little bit about that culture. They bring in people who are from the host nation, and they teach you just basic things that you know when it comes to certain customs in that country. So in Japan, these are things that are considered impolite that you might not realize. Or in Spain, like this is what you can expect. The stores really are going to be closed from 2 to 5 p.m. and you can't do anything. So you learn a little bit about the culture. And then oftentimes they have you go on a field trip at the end of these week-long courses. And so you go on your own and you try to figure out the metro and you try to go somewhere and you try to just figure out, okay, here I am in a brand new country that I've never been to before, but I've got these resources and I can figure this out. And it's very, very helpful. And it just kind of gives you that confidence to know that you can do it.
Well, I really want to thank our panelists for joining us and being willing to share their experiences. I'm a big believer that you don't sort we are all thriving in this life because of the families that we've met along the way or the friends that have become the family along the way, for sure. Katie and Lindsay, you should have received an email from me inviting you to attend today. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. Both myself and Dee are in the to line of that email that I sent out, and we are always here to answer any questions that anyone may have. But we really just appreciate everyone's time, and we're excited for you both to be getting to go overseas because it is, as we've all said, I think you can tell, just a really great opportunity.